Alright, Shalom. First off, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to our apostles and elders. And Shalom to all the Akim out there preaching his word in truth and sincerity. So I'm doing this video on how next year, basically, Esau is about to put a new law in effect as far as the IDs go. And how basically it's going to be a new traveling way you got to, like when you traveling, you got to have a passport now or the real ID now. Because you're not going to be able to use basically your regular ID like you do right now. If you get on a flight or whatever, you can just use your regular ID that you have. But starting next year in January, Esau is going to he passed laws to where now, yeah, it's not going to be valid no more. You're going to have a passport or a real ID. But I'm going to go into the article real quick and go into what the new ID is, or real ID is, off of Wikipedia. So right here, as you can see the heading, say the New York Times, what you need to know about the new ID law and travel. So in the past several months, there has been plenty of conversation about the Real ID Act and how it will affect air travelers. Passed by Congress in 2005, the act is intended to prevent identity fraud, and starting in January 22nd in 2018, flyers who reside in some states, even if they're flying domestically, will need identification other than a driver's license to pass through Transportation Security Administration security checkpoints at airports. Who exactly is affected and what additional identification will the TSA require? Here answers to the questions about what the Real ID Act means for travelers and why having a passport now may be more important than ever. So what exactly is the Real ID Act? The act is meant to ensure that a person presenting an ID is in fact who that person says they are, according to Justin Whelan, a spokeswoman for the Department of Homeland Security. The act prevents the production of fake IDs and ensures that all identification that is used has certain features which prevent tampering or difficult to replicate. Ms. Whelan said these features include anti-counterfeit technology, such as the holograms on some state licenses. Federally issued documents, such as a passport, also fall into the difficult to replicate category. And it says why the act is being implemented. Congress passed the act on the recommendation of the 9/11 Commission that the federal government set minimum security standards for how states issue identification and for how that identification is used. These security standards ensure a safer American public. At the end of the day, everyone should be who they say they are, Ms. Whelan said. So it says, I'm gonna just jump around a little bit. In the next section was it says currently 28 states are Real ID compliant, including Texas, Ohio, Florida, Nevada, and Colorado. And so starting January 22nd, the TSA will ask travelers who don't have a driver's license from a compliant state or a state that has been granted an extension to the compliance deadline. This means the residents can continue using their non-compliant license for federal purposes while the state continues working to be in compliance. To provide an alternative form of acceptable identification, travelers won't be able to pass through security without this acceptable identification. And that basically, yeah, and the act as of October 2020, all air travelers will be required to have a Real ID compliant driver's license or alternate acceptable identification to fly domestically. So basically, Esau, the Real ID is basically going to have a chip in there, and I'm gonna go into on the Wikipedia a little bit, but that's pretty much the main point on here. Basically, this explained a little bit like when it's going to go into effect as far as flying, and then some of the states that will be compliant with it, and that some states will have an extension as far as you got more time to switch over to a Real ID, or you can if you're not part of the compliant states, then you got basically more extension time to get it. But the Real ID Act, basically, that's them Esau trying to make an excuse for putting the chip in your ID. And that's another step towards the mark of the beast as well, because all your information is going to be on there. And this is going to go into it a little bit, because it's going to share all your information. Like with every state is going to know all your information. So say if you got arrested out wherever, if you from from California, you went out to New York or Florida, you get arrested out there or some trouble or something, they gon' every state has your information all on all shared in the same database, bringing everything back together under that new world order basically type stuff. So this is off of Wikipedia and on the Real ID Act, and it says, I'm going to read the first little section right here. The law sets forth requirements for state driver's licenses and ID cards to be accepted by the federal government for official purposes as defined by the Secretary of the United States Department of Homeland Security. The Secretary of Homeland Security has currently defined official purposes as boarding commercially operated airline flights and entering federal buildings and nuclear power plants, although the law gives the Secretary the unlimited authority to require a federal identification for any other purposes. So official purposes can be for anything more than just what they mentioned right there. And so basically Esau's, he's not going to let you know what he's using the information for. Basically just to monitor you, and what he would do with the mark of the beast, basically. Look at everything you're doing is all going to be on that, your real ID, basically. Anything, any dirt you do, any time you get in trouble or whatever. So it says the Real ID Act implements the following. Title II of the Act establishes new federal standards for state-issued driver's license and non-driver identification cards, changing visa limits for temporary workers, nurses, and Australian citizens, funding some reports and pilot projects related to border security, introducing rules covering delivery bonds to bail, but for aliens who have been released pending hearings, updating and tightening the laws on application for asylum and deportation of alien for terrorism, waiving laws that interfere with construction of physical barriers at the borders, and yeah, I'm gonna go into this section a little bit. Yeah, the Real ID Act driver's license. So this under the federally mandated standards for state driver's license or ID cards. And it says the Real ID Act driver's license summary details the following provisions of the Act's driver's license title: authority, data retention and storage. DLID document standards grants to states immigration requirements, linking of databases. So they linking all the databases from all the states basically. Minimum standards for federal use. In fact, if Esau basically gonna know everything about you as far as like where you from, anything you did, any records, history, stuff like that. The repeal of 9/11 Commission Implementation Act, DLID provisions, security and fraud prevention standards, verification of documents. Yeah, and see right here, the national license / ID standards cover how the states must share their databases both domestically and internationally through the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, what data must be included on the card and what technology it is encoded with, what documentation must be presented and electronically stored before a card can be issued, And this is all the data requirements that's going to be on the card. The Real ID compliant form or form of identification requires the following pieces of data: your full legal name, your signature, your date of birth, your gender, unique identifying number, principal residence address, front facing photograph. And they claim that the cards must also feature specific security features intended to prevent tampering, counterfeiting, or duplication of the document for fraudulent purposes. And these cards must also present data in a common machine-readable format, barcode, smart card technology. And smart card technology is basically chips, although it says it right here. The next percent is, although the use of wireless RFID chips was offered for consideration in the proposed rulemaking process, it was not included in the latest rulemaking process. DHS could consider additional technology requirements to be incorporated into the licenses after consulting with the states. In addition, DHS has required the use of RFID chips in its enhanced driver license program, which the department is proposing as an alternative to Real ID. And that's basically what it's going to be about, putting the chips in there and having all your information on there and having all the databases linked up with these other states, you know, because it says it's for consideration. The RFID chips was offered for consideration, but that's basically what it's going to lead up to, because then they're going to have another excuse saying, oh, it's still ways to counterfeit it. We need the RFID chips. That's the only way to be 100% for sure. 100% guaranteed it's not going to get counterfeited. Just like when you got these credit cards that got the RFID chips in there. Any new cards you get, you can't swipe no more. You got to just put it in the little chip reader. And that's basically what it's going to be with the Real IDs. It's going to have a chip in there. Another step towards the market of beast. And that chip is going to have all your information. Like it was saying, your gender, date of birth, signature, full legal name, a unique identifying number. So anywhere you go, that number is going to stick with you. Just like your a unique number you got is your social security number. Anywhere you go, you gotta have that social security number is all the same, you know. But this is another wicked law that Esau is getting ready to pass. Well, he did pass that. He's going to get ready to implement starting next year, and it's another step towards the market of beasts, you know. So I'm gonna get these two scriptures. Isaiah 10:1, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. And that's destruction unto them. Esau is going to be destroyed ultimately by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. But he's the one who decrees all these unrighteous decrees. He always got some kind of weak excuse for why he has to do something when it's just really ultimately set up for him to further his goal of pushing out that market of beast. Because with the IDs, what was his excuse for that? Same thing. People stealing your account information, getting your information to be able to use your card. Oh, you need a chip now so that doesn't happen. But it could still happen even if you do have the RFID chip. So just like with these new IDs, he's saying he's doing that so there can't be counterfeits. You are who you say you are, because people make fake IDs now. Once that technology is out there, then people are going to learn how to make fake IDs again. And then you're going to say, oh, well, we still got people making counterfeits, blah, blah, blah. Now you got to get the RFID chip. That's going to be a for sure way that it's not counterfeit. Just like they were saying with the passport, it's a federal document, so there's no way you could counterfeit that. They're going to say that about the RFID chip. There's no way you could counterfeit that, because it's going to be inside. It's implanted inside of you. You can't just take it out and then put it in somebody else, and then they take it out, give it back to you. It's not how it works. Once it's in you, it's in you. You can't pretend to be the next person that have a chip. But ultimately, that's what it's all leading up to. All this different stuff, So ultimately leading up to the chip. But this the next scripture I was going to get. The Revelation 13:16, and he calls up all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that a man might not buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. And that's what it's going to ultimately lead up to. They're trying to, that's just one thing they're going to stop, stopping you from traveling. They're trying to stop you from traveling if you don't, agree to their terms. You're not going to be able to even domestically travel within the Babylon. They're trying to stop you from doing that unless you have a passport or have a real ID. Next is going to be you got to have a chip. If you want to travel, you can't go anywhere. Without the mark of the beast, you're not going anywhere. So it's just Esau being a devil like usual, but you know he's trying to push his issue about the chip because he's way behind schedule. He's been supposed to pass the chip, have the chip out there, pushing it on everybody. But you're just seeing it more steps leading up to that. As prophecies come to pass, you see the stage getting set for Esau's downfall. He's already fallen down, but as he falls down, he's going to be trying to implement his new world order still. And the Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is going to return and stop him in the midst of trying to do that, But I just wanted to go into that real quick about the real ID stuff, because I'm not sure if a lot of brothers know about that. But starting next year, basically, Esau is going to be implementing that new ID, So now you got to have a passport, basically, if you want to travel domestically. But with that, I'm going to give our praises again to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to our apostles and elders. And Shalom to the Akim out there preaching his word in truth and sincerity. Shalom.